is the time. The time when dreams come true and legends are born.
Oh my word!
This is the place.
Some seriously spicy stuff. An absolute masterclass.
The place where teams from across the globe come to battle it out for their shot at glory.
Oh, you're kidding!
And a piece of up to $2 million in prizing.
No pressure, guys. No pressure.
This is the feeling.
It's beautiful.
The once-in-a-lifetime feeling of lifting the trophy at the Brawl Stars World Finals.
Here comes the push. Here's the damage. This is now the crunch time.
This is the game.
Immediately taken down.
Still not going to fall. He refuses to die.
The game you love. This is the Brawl Stars Championship. Let's get ready to brawl.
Welcome back, folks, to the Brawl Stars Championship powered by the Snapdragon Pro Series. It's monthly finals time again. April, of course, for those that haven't changed their calendar over. You can be forgiven. Your gamers. We're back in the APAC region, one of our most exciting and fascinating regions. As we've seen such back and forth last month. Many of our teams are returning, and so are our talent. I'm here with Kenny and Reddy. Great to be here with you guys.
So obviously, we had underdog stories like Angelic, and we got some new organizations joining the fray this month as well that I think might give Crazy Raccoon
leaderboard, because there are teams that are returning that are on this leaderboard and some that aren't coming back. Before we get there, though, just to remind everybody, we will be playing our power match format, the same that you experience in ranked. Our monthly finals feature an 8-team single elimination bracket. That's right, you lose once, you are out. The upside, though, is that each match is a best of 5, all the way from the quarterfinals to the grand finals. That's a maximum Brawl Stars for all you fans at home. And now let's move along. Let's talk a little bit more about the APAC region, of course. And again, Crazy Raccoon at the top after their reverse sweep, but Ready said the gap ain't that big. There's a lot of teams nipping at their heels.
We see good teams returning from last month that are ready to sort of reclaim their position here. Crazy Raccoon, they managed to take first place in the last monthly final. It was a very close call versus Angelic, though. They actually had to get a reverse sweep in order to get the win in the grand finals. They even had another close victory in the semifinals. We see Angelic occupying that number 2 spot. Their match is going to be played off stream today versus Revenant Esports sitting down in 4th place. Gohan Oishi also sitting all the way down in 8th place. Is actually disbanded now. Just so much has happened from month to month, but we're going to get a taste of what's been brewing, what the teams have been cooking up very soon.
Now, on our stream, we'll be having S1 versus Crazy Raccoon and Navi versus 3R Gaming, respectively, in the quarterfinals. On the B stream, that's right, our featured community casters will be covering Never Back Down versus Coco Loco and Revenant Esports versus Angelic. Now, if you are over at the event.brawlstars.com platform, if you aren't, head over there. But if you are, you can switch between those streams and keep an eye on all the games as they go. Another perk, of course, to joining us over on that platform is that you can put your predictions in, vote for your MVP, and win yourself some fantastic in-game swag, star drops for everybody. So head over there if you haven't already. Sign on in and join us over there. We talked a little bit about, a couple of these teams like Angelic, for example, who really impressed us last month. We know, obviously, these teams have all had to fight their way through, the monthly qualifiers. And Angelic, had a little bit of a tougher time. It wasn't the smoothest, and I bring them up because they were such a dark horse, exciting team. Here's our predictions, though. You can make yours again over at event.brawlstars.com. And we've all sort of said it'll be Never Back Down beating S1. We've all said Crazy Raccoon will be taking that game away. Revenant and then Navi will be winning that quarterfinal. And we've got to talk about them, Kenny, because Navi have been a bit of a phenomenon, bringing back a previous world champion, and they've hit the ground running in the APAC region.
They had a great showing in the monthly qualifiers this month, especially after a misstep last month. And with only 5 monthlies to compete in, missing 1 month is a huge devastation for your team. So Navi really stepping up their game, even adding a new player this month and getting the best of even somebody like Crazy Raccoon in a 2-0 victory in that monthly qualifiers is a big deal. So I'm expecting big things from the day. And to be honest, they kind of need it, given that they have so much ground to make up for missing out on last month.
Now, Reddy, you are on the same side of us. Before we say say goodbye to you, you also said that Revenant would beat Angelic. Now, that's a pretty bold claim from all of us, considering that Angelic were the ones that beat them in the semi-finals last time around.
I think that a lot of this is a matter of preparation. First of all, I just have faith in Revenant as a team and as a group of individual players that have achieved a lot of success over the years. I think that Angelic come in as this dark horse. No one really knows who they are. They should be an easy team to beat. We've never seen them achieve this much success before. And I think they just blindsided Revenant Esports. Let's not forget that it was also a close match. It was a 3-2 victory for Angelic. I think this time, I mean, given that it's a quarterfinals match, they have to be throwing everything they've got at it. Revenant coming back for revenge. It's simply what I expect is a Revenant victory here.
Okay, I mean, look, I'm down with that. Kenny, you're the one that's actually going to be sitting out for the first game, not really, excuse me. Any of those predictions that you're really not particularly confident about? Any that felt like a bit of a coin flip? Because that's what this region has given us on multiple occasions.
I don't think it's fair that Revenant versus Angelic wasn't a coin flip from me, especially considering what they were last month, but I'm kind of in the same boat as Reddy here. I have a lot of faith in Revenant, the history that these guys have as players, the organization itself, and Angelic are kind of still proving it to me. I mean, they had a great 1 month, but that was just it. It's only 1 month, and ultimately, it wasn't the cleanest road. It's Crazy Raccoon, but they did lose in a reverse sweep. That is lingering in my mind a little bit, and at the end of the day, I'm going to go with the established organizations in these quarterfinals, especially to typically get the job done, but I don't really blame anybody for going Angelic. After all, they did win this matchup last month.
There we go. Safe bet, to be fair, but we've obviously seen Angelic put up some serious results in the past. We'll catch up with you after, Kenny, but myself and Ready Set will be jumping into our first quarterfinal matchup. It'll be Team S1, a South Korean roster. We've actually made a couple of roster changes actually coming into this tournament. They managed to beat Coco Loco and Angelic in the monthly qualifiers. So this is a team that didn't drop any single set or game on their way here. So that's pretty impressive. They've looked dominant, but the question remains, is that level of dominance enough to put a remote amount of pressure on our March monthly final winners, Crazy Raccoon?
In a single word, yes. I think it's absolutely the case. Crazy Raccoon, I mean, imagine the expectations for these guys where they're expected to win the entire thing, probably for themselves as well. So going against a team like Team S1 that, as you said, went through those qualifiers without dropping a single game, that is a very fearsome team. And I mean, this is the final boss. They face the final boss of this region in the very first round. I think all their preparation goes towards these 3 maps, and Crazy Raccoon have had to budget their time and energy across several different sets of maps for this monthly finals.
The one thing we saw from Crazy Raccoon last month is that they looked fallible. They looked beatable. They were pushed all the way and in fact had to reverse sweep Angelic to win those monthly finals. And in the monthly qualifiers, they run headlong into this Na'Vi roster and they get absolutely shattered. They lose 2-0. They fall to the lower bracket. Of course, in the monthly qualifiers, you have a sort of second chance by the lower bracket. They go up against a team called Feasible Gaming and actually drop the first set in that best of 3. So they've got to reverse sweep their way out to even be here. That's kind of how wild this APAC region is right now. So many quality teams, such that Crazy Raccoon are being pushed to the very limit in order to make it here. And like I mentioned, last month was no different. And the road ahead here, Crazy Raccoon would have to be the winner of Never Back Down and Coco Loco, and then of course deal with whoever emerges from that lower side of this 8-team single elimination bracket. We saw a lot as well. We'll talk about Brawl picks in just a second here, because Crazy Raccoon, one of the biggest criticisms they've faced is actually the quality of their drafts already. A lot of people have been like, not sure if I understand these comps. Some of the pick ban left people scratching their heads at times. So we're definitely looking for them with Coach Rely on their team to assure that up this month.
I think also, like, just as the rest of the world watching this region has a pretty specific regional meta. A lot of times you'll see interactions become like about the 2v2 and the 3v3 rather than the 3 individual 1v1s, which is how the rest of the world tends to play this game. That's why you see brawlers that are supports like Gus, like Byron appearing so much, is because they can combine to create something that's better than the sum of their parts. It forces your enemy to engage with the 2v2. That's just how this regional meta goes. So I can understand why some people are left scratching their heads seeing some of these picks. When it comes to World Finals, though, Crazy Raccoon, it seems like they change to the level of much of the rest of the world and sort of alter their drafts to compete on that level. So we will see if they choose a different approach this time, but it seems in the theme of APAC to play the APAC meta.
Just waiting for our teams to get into game here. They are taking their sweet time. So I want to make sure everything is taken care of before they get into the draft. Yo. Yeah.
Yo.
I mean, this is, yeah, I know. I want to talk about it, but I don't know if we can. Wait, we can, right? Yeah, we can. Yo, big shout out to Pink Monster. That stuff is absolute fire.
Dude,
Get
that's what I got right next to me right now.
Oh, I'm so jealous. I was like, wait a minute. Are we smart? We are. We actually are sponsored by it. Okay, that's the best flavor. Are you ready? You put me onto it when we were in Sweden last year, and I was all about it. So, yeah, great taste, great taste. Good to see that. And I'm starting to think S1 might have the gas they need to take this out. Let's talk about our bands here. Very quickly, as Gray gets locked in pretty much straight away. New Horizons is where it's going to be, so Knockout, obviously, a great option. Charlie's still attracting some bans here.
I mean, Charlie just has a really good win rate. She's good into tanks. No complaints, honestly. It's a strange thing to be lost for words for. It just, I don't think it needs a whole lot of explanation. He's a good brawler right now, high win rate basically everywhere. With Charlie banned, this is a great opportunity for that Leon to be picked up. We don't see Pearl banned anywhere, so that could be an avenue that Crazy Raccoon decide to go with, as Charlie is like just one of the best ways to deal with Leon. Now being unavailable for Crazy Raccoon could be troublesome.
All right, yeah, a lot of these sharpshooters usually get taken out of the mix here. Miko also, a highly banned brawler. None is open, right? We want to sort of work some of those sharpshooters. Crazy Raccoon have the ability to close the gap in a big way. We're going to talk about Kit, right? Because that's something we've seen a lot more recently. Now with a bit of a buff recently as well.
Yeah, Kit got a buff to super damage and to main attack damage, so just going to be good in that base form rather than having to backpack on a teammate the entire time. The other thing with Kit, just to heal up a teammate when you're on top of them, probably not going to be used so much as an assassin, as it is still a little bit challenging. Once you kill someone in your super, you're still like unable to attack them until your super would have ended, but it's a great way to stun an enemy so that your teammates can take advantage of an incapable enemy. We'll see this last pick coming in from Crazy Raccoon. I like the Meg. It's just going to be a good, consistent brawler into any mid, since no actual mid has been picked for S1 just yet. Shelly's here to counter any sort of cheese strategy. Team S1 could absolutely still go for a tank here if they want to. It's just not going to be that great of a choice, considering Gray can easily hook them through a wall.
And again, the ability to take Gray and just to put a Shelly and a Meg right in someone's face seems very powerful. And Crazy Raccoon can kind of do this as soon as they kind of build that first super. So that's something that S1 have to be pretty aware of. We know how powerful Leon is, just generally a very strong brawler. And definitely one worth keeping an eye out here. So waiting on the last pick here from Team S1. And then we'll be ready to jump on in. Melody was the last ban for S1, which is no surprise, right? She's received her fair share of nerfs, but now legal in the monthly finals. There are a lot of teams that are trying to avoid having to deal with her.
The last pick coming in, Larry from Team S1. I like this one. The only challenge is that you are dealing with two forms of wall break, so this could be troublesome. Basically set to sit on the left side. This is interesting. Look at Tensai. He's actually using the grand piano to break down some of these walls. Doesn't even need the hook, because, I mean, honestly, who are you going to be hooking? Maybe Larry, but you can break down the walls so early on that all of these brawlers that rely so much on walls, particularly Kit and Larry, are going to be out of moves, essentially.
And you can get the hard engage anyway. You don't need the walking cane to sort of set up a pick, because you are piling in, especially with this Shelly. We've also got the super build up here for Meg, so it's a scary prospect for S1 should Crazy Raccoon look to close the smithereens here. Team S1 don't quite know how to approach this comp. They need to beat them before the gas comes in, I feel.
I think the pressure just got to him. We saw Terry actually jump in with Kit, but missed that AoE stun that would have gone on to Gray. And I think the move from there was essentially, yo, I'm going to stun him. Chovy, can you like toss a few shots on him to KO him? Because Larry just pumps out so much damage, particularly onto a target that is completely still. Big moves on the back right here, and a little angry pin from Guy's Align as well, as that was an easy gank from Tensai just moments ago.
Yeah, and obviously going after the Kit, one of the least durable. And yeah, it's all too easy. Every time you build up a super, you just go in. Tensai just cycling that super to jump on in, and a very clean showing there from Crazy Raccoon. A good start here. It's a powerful composition. It does everything they needed to. We can dive individually as Grey. We can bring the whole team into the party if we need to, or we can, you know, send someone else like the Meg. It's very, very strong, and while it looked like S1 had a very reasonable comp, right? Use Kit's stun, get a lot of damage off, you know, both the Leon and the Larry. It seemed pretty hard to put it together and to poke down such a durable enemy comp.
Game starting off once again with these walls being broken down. Tensai is likely just running 3 of these and expending his gears elsewhere. He only needs to get a few of these broken down. Terry just sitting invis inside of the bushes where he cannot be spotted. Surely Crazy Raccoon know exactly where he is. Terry's going to get that stun onto Moya, though. Reaction from Stetampo. He does pick up the kill, but it's only a trade. Guys, Align now with the invis, looking for something onto Stetampo, but misses the shots. He won't be able to secure a kill.
Yeah, I mean, diving on the Meg there, that is brazen. She virtually has a second life there, and everything from S1 got thrown only to achieve a trade. That's pretty scary. Now your like hard engage method is gone. No cardboard box, stealth walk-ups into super from the Kit anymore. And now it feels like Crazy Raccoon can just keep the pressure on. Tensai able to dodge enough of these shurikens, and yeah, they'll be in great shape. Shitampa's also built that super, so Chovy is dead either way. You can either stay in the gas, you can come out. Either way, Crazy Raccoon are going to take the round.
Reset for the next round. Team S1 can't pick it up here. It's just one round that stands between Crazy Raccoon and their first set victory. Only minutes into the match. Chovy's trying to make use of whatever remnants are left of these walls, but Stetampo has the wall break ready. Terry gets a bit of damage on Moya and goes for the heal, actually. This is the first time he's gone for this game, so it could do something for them. But once again, throwers are most beneficial in scenarios where you have walls, and I'm not seeing a whole lot of those at mid.
No, and again, obviously this form of Kit during super, it's very hard. Like those balls of yarn choke you down, but they're not that long range here. And Crazy Raccoon are able to keep S1 at arm's length. Guys Align here trying to step up, gets pasted immediately by this Meg, and I don't see how you're supposed to approach. So hard to even find an assassination here with this Leon.
Crazy Raccoon continue their domination of mid. Stetampo has that super, and Chovy might try and bait it out. Terry's got only a little bit left on that invis. He's got to be in the bush. There it is. Stun onto Stetampo and a kill, but it's only a trade once again. Hypercharge for Guys Align. This could be actually a round win for Team S1. Chovy and Guys Align surround and dominate as they get this round win, their first one of the set.
Yeah, look, that was really nice, and they probably dive on the correct target there, right? They were to go in, they're again looking for Stetampo, and again, this time they're able to eliminate Shelly very, very quickly. I also think the fact that Laurie makes an appearance is a big difference maker, a virtual player advantage there for S1.
I think Team S1 simply were not expecting this wall break from Tensai. I mean, the grand piano is just not in the vocabulary of players. Ever since it got that first nerf, it just was not super viable. The stun on Stetampo, but no kill. Looks like his Band-Aid procced, and he managed to stay alive. We're 2v3. This is already game over for S1, essentially, unless they make a miracle play.
Yeah, it seems hard to come back from this, and Tensai knows blood in the water, and he looks to exploit. Crazy Raccoon, get it done. And a great showing here on our knockout map. Tensai going to be pleased about that. Looks like all the lads are there in person. And only one round where they sort of slip, but it's pretty hard to combat like a full dive when Kit goes in with that super and the Larry throws Laurie on top of you as well.
We say outdrafted. We say outdrafted themselves. I really think this is a moment where we saw S1 outdraft themselves. Playing the Kit into the gray when your walls are going to be broken down. I mean, look, even if they're running the hook, you're still going to get pulled through a wall. I think it's very bold. And then to double down with a Larry and Laurie once the Shelly has been picked, knowing that the Shelly is like here, yes, to counter tanks, but she has clay pigeons. She's gonna get her super. You get Piper range to charge your super. It's just so easy for her to break walls. So I am a big critic of this draft for Team S1. I think a lot of things went wrong, and the win was already in the bag before even the gadgets were switched for Gray.
That's fair. I mean, investing in 1.5 throwers, I'll use half for Kit there, against a team that can wall break really effectively, and you kind of pointed out that Shelly can still charge super with that gadget relatively comfortably, even at those longer ranges. See, here's where it works out, right? But they have to invest everything in order to make this happen. And it has to be on the right target. I guess the Shelly in that case. But again, you had a Band-Aid proc the second time this happened, and Stetampo was able to survive that full dive. And then, when you don't have your supers available, Crazy Raccoon's composition is so much more powerful. Tensai knows, we just dive here. We just go in, we finish the job, and we take it on to the next set. So a great opening here for Crazy Raccoon, looking for yet another strong start and perhaps another monthly finals championship.
Well, it might be a little too soon to call. I mean, it certainly is, but this is one set in where we've seen Crazy Raccoon get a pretty good draft. There are a lot of things worth pointing out here that Crazy Raccoon did right. One of them is the preemptive Meg pick before a mid was even selected for Team S1, and then S1 kind of ended up without a mid at all. They were sort of scared to pick up that mid, and so the lanes ended up being destroyed. It all collapsed from there. I think this is pretty creative for Crazy Raccoon to pick up the Meg, not as a reaction, but as a sort of preemptive thing. A lot of times you'll see it be banned to prevent something like this. We'll be moving into Shooting Star for set number 2. Expect more of that long-range meta.
And I feel like the Meg is such a classic Crazy Raccoon pick. They've been picking that for a long time.
Yeah.
Like literal years. I think they were picking it in Paris, for God's sake, on like hot zone maps, for example. They really valued having the Meg in general. She's very powerful, and now, of course, that she doesn't sort of decay out of that mech. It's yeah, it's very strong. Melody here, finally getting picked, sneaking through the bans. Moya going to lock that one in. Tell us about that. It's a scary prospect, of course, that new assassin brawler. Very, very dangerous up close.
It's just, you have so much pressure on an enemy. The only challenge is that Melody, where she finds most of her value, is in a mode like Gem Grab or something like Brawl Ball, where movement's extremely useful in Brawl Ball, but in Gem Grab, it's like, yeah, you can constantly die on the enemy side, but that one time that you get them to drop the gems and you survive is so immensely useful. Now that we move into a mode like Bounty, you're going to be sacrificing stars to the enemy team if you are playing like that. So we'll be seeing a different style of Melody play than is the most frequent. And I think this is why S1 decided to let her slip through the bans, because it was absolutely it was a decision, was it not, to not ban Melody. And she's also just one of those that you kind of ban everywhere. She's just so good right now. An early Larry pick from S1 also worries me a little bit. This is one of those where you like play Carl to punish them. This is totally a Crazy Raccoon brawler. It's not banned. Tick is their selection though. He's just gotten a hypercharge and he is pretty strong right now.
Okay, I mean, I'm not surprised. I guess I realized why Melody gets through. Also, Byron is such an APAC pick. We were seeing it a ton last month as well. They loved it. And it was not a pick that was heavily featured in a lot of other regions, maybe here and there. I want to say in like South America, for example. But look at the bands here for S1, right? Angelo, Piper, Jean, all powerhouses when it comes to Bounty. That's the reality of Brawl at this level now, is that there are so many powerful picks that you maybe want to avoid having to deal with or play yourself that, well, plenty of strong ones get through as well. RT, very, very strong on Bounty, of course, especially when it comes to dive time. Defensively, it feels like RT is really frightening to try and dive in on if their team is S1, that is able to get a significant star lead. You don't want to be going in that direction when RT has that super up. Also, just amazing at like mid to long range. It's very, very serviceable.
I think it'll be a good way to deal with Melody. You can actually defend yourself in close range. The only thing is, if Melody is like on her second dash, but the time that she gets to you, you react with your super, then she's already gone, and you're just left being a separated head from your base. You can't get your super back. You're just free for the enemy team. So we'll see how this one ends up panning out. Early blue star for Stetampo. He has so much health, so he's able to get that quite easily. Typically, you'd have something like Tick run and get this one. Stetampo must be playing a more defensive Melody this time. Crazy Raccoon also don't seem to be playing too aggressively. They have the blue star. Maybe their idea is to sit back and not really just play the aggro Melody.
Again, you're having that sort of mobility that sort of rivals that of Stu, also with like a really robust health pool and, you know, be very dangerous up close in general. Makes Melody very powerful option here. Shitampa more than able to kite away from much of this thrower damage here. Is S1 love a bit of Larry and Laurie, but it's going to be tough for Terry to get in range. Trophy marks up Shitampo there and definitely starts to put some pressure down, but Crazy Raccoon are in no hurry to make a move. And of course that persistent healing for Byron, plus the, I guess, the script flipping capacity of that Byron super here is something that S1 have to fear.
You mentioned actually the Larry and Laurie. I think that at this moment, Larry is just outclassed by Tick. Tick has the hypercharge, and now he's at the forefront of the meta. It's almost that simple. The hypercharge just gives you so much damage, and Tick was already good. Tick's good in this particular matchup because, look at this, outranging Larry at every single step of the way, and has that super that creates a bunch of pressure on the enemy team. It's just...
It's amazing against throwers, right? You cannot...
Yes,
like, throwers just die to that.
don't think people recognize how much of an issue a tick super is, because it's one of those things that you absolutely have to deal with. You can't run away from it. It's faster than you. It's going to deal a bunch of damage. Now they have it as a defensive option as we enter the last 15 seconds of this game.
Yeah, if you're a single shot brawler or a thrower, like, you're very, very pressured down by that. And there are a lot of those on this side of S1. 9 seconds left, and eventually S1 need to make a move here. Chovy, of course, has the super, can use that aggressively. Chitapo, though, steps up, gets a few taps in towards Chovy, now has the mobility. Shielded up for a time and is able to back away. And S1 were, at no point do they seem to be threatening at all to take any of those stars away.
Despite only being up by 1 blue star this entire game, it looked like Crazy Raccoon were actually quite comfortable. I mean, they get themselves into the essential bounty winning position right off the beginning of the game, getting that blue star, which forces the enemy to play aggro into them. And it seems like they have just good defensive options. Also, just the pressure that Stetapo creates simply by having his super available keeps you from overextending. They're going to have actually Tensai grab the blue star this time. And this is what I remarked on in game number 1. You have a brawler that's never going to go aggro, that's always going to have good defensive options, be far away, grab the blue star. And then if Stetapo needs to go aggro on someone to save the game, they don't risk sacrificing the blue star. Yeah,
that makes perfect sense. You want to be able to, have that mobility for safety's sake, but also if you need to go aggressive, if something goes wrong, you have that contingency. Kizaline here, able to pressure the Byron back finally, but Tensai and Chitapo are hard to deal with. And yeah, that tick hypercharge, right? The tick head comes in very, very fast and creates an extra explosive field, which is unbelievably strong when the enemy are grouped up, of course. And it tends to happen in the dying moments on a map like this, especially if your opponents are the ones that have that star lead and you're trying to chase them down.
See Stetapo flashing the super. He might be thinking of dashing on Terry is the thing. We see Tensai also grabbing that blue star. It avails Stetapo these positions. He's thinking about, he's still got 2 and even pops a shield, but for what? I mean, he had health to use. He must just have gadgets that he wants to use. I think Crazy Raccoon sense that they're in a winning position in this match and are willing to play not as safely, may look to acquire a star lead instead of just be on 1 star the entire time. It did not get like super dicey towards the end of the last game, but they were not in a super comfortable position as the clock ticked down. So they may look to acquire a few more stars in the final few seconds.
Chitapo was there, always making sure they had 1 more of those dashes available, just in case they had to get out, just in case something funky happens. Here we go again, Team S1. Do you want to win the game? Do you want it? You're going to have to take it. Just the 1 star lead for Crazy Raccoon, and they've played defensive the entire game. S1 need to go for it. 5 seconds left. Chitapo asking them, begging them, please challenge us, but Terry's too low to get involved, and okay. That's fine. You don't want to play the game? That's totally fine. Blue star taken by Crazy Raccoon, and the poke was way too good that S1 never felt like they could come up and challenge.
Yeah, I think one matchup that we actually never talked about, just because nothing was ever happening over there, was the Byron versus the Bell. Bell's like, I think maybe slightly outranged by Byron. He has pretty good range, and towards the end of the game, I saw Bell's shots always coming up short versus the Byron. He's just sitting behind the wall, healing a teammate if they get kind of low or anywhere below maximum health, and Bell was not able to get him around that corner. Just not enough pressure. I think one of the biggest things was Larry was not able to get pressure on absolutely anyone, constantly outranged by the tick, always receiving damage. If you were to go aggro, the tick has a super. I think this is another one where they had a lane that was absolutely outmatched, and even if you pick up any headway on that tick, there's Byron, and he's going to heal up. He has great healing capabilities. It's an outdraft, 100%.
Yeah, and he holds it with super. Like, I think at no point do we actually see super come out there, because it's just amazing to turn a fight around if you're going to get dived, which is obviously very powerful when it comes to the Melody, who already wants to get up close. If there is a full engage going on, that Byron super really pushes you over the edge. And again, it's a high skill cap brawler that is very effective, obviously, in a support capacity. So you can see that Moyo just really took his time. Right, just trading a lot of these shots, and you can kind of see that, yeah, deceptively long range is Byron. Also with a gadget that shoots the triple shot there, which is which is interesting, just in case there's some grouping going on, but very strong showing here. Hydration is key for Crazy Raccoon, but they've got to be feeling good. They're only 1 set away from taking this.
I know this one's going to be great for the Brawl Esports account. Last year, we saw a compilation of players hydrating themselves, so that one's definitely going in the bank.
Added on the list.
I guess this year's edition.
Yeah, put it in the list. Absolutely. We're getting off to a good start in that regard. Crazy Raccoon now taking it over to Dueling Beetles for what may well be our final set, and already going for a very powerful, very good all-round pick here in the Bell, especially with that supercharge, with the hypercharge available now. Much easier to connect those super shots to make sure you guarantee the mark.
I'm a little mystified on why Bell was selected here instead of Angelo. I feel like, well, the Angelo nerf is definitely an aspect, but I still think he's like #1 among the sharpshooters. The only balance change that Bell received in this last patch was a slight nerf to hypercharge charge rate. It was like down from 50% to just 40%,
40, yeah.
which is not really that impactful because her hypercharge is good, but you're still going to get it about like 2 times a game. So it's probably just not getting it 3 times a game these days. We'll see S1 pick up just super strong Brawl.
Very strong.
There's no other way to describe it. You have Angelo, you have Charlie, super meta stuff. Crazy Raccoon, I think that they actually have something really solid here that's super cohesive. And Team S1, once again, have like some good parts. I don't know if they make as good of a puzzle as Crazy Raccoons.
Very robust, high health composition. 2 tank brawlers being picked up here, of course, with the healing station of Pam and Buster's ability not only to drag people in, but, you know, be very durable during that montage with that star power. Just something you don't want to deal with, especially if you're trying to play. Yeah, you've got to basically go Colette here. This almost necessitates that % health damage now with 2 very big bodies on the point for Crazy Raccoon.
This is going to be challenging, I think. I think Terry's going to have a lot of responsibilities here. He's going to be playing into the Pam. It's hard to get the combo on Pam, the typical Colette combo of I hit you once, twice, I super, and then you're dead. That's going to be tough to hit on Pam because she has so many healing capabilities which interfere with your ability to combo. However, the placement of the turret is going to be vital for Stetampo here as Terry's able to kill it in just 1 hit. Strong brawlers, strong composition for Crazy Raccoon. Let's see what Geysaline can do here in the matchup versus Stetampo. If he's able to get a takedown, then that vastly changes how this match turns out.
I mean, Crazy Raccoon had to know they were walking into a Colette counter pick. And she hits really hard. Look how much damage Moya takes. That is unreasonable. And that's because, of course, Colette doesn't do a set amount of damage. It's a proportion of your maximum health. Here's a montage to buy a little bit of space here. Crazy Raccoon, in fairness, are about to spend more time on the point. They're more durable in general. Okay, time to collect. Well, Terry gets cut down midway through that. Looks like maybe in a scrap sucker opportunity there for Moya to force Trophy off the angle, and Stetampo is winning the right side lane.
Stetampo now picking up this mid area allows him to deal with Terry. It would be unwise for Terry to continue contesting Stetampo because he's outmatched 100%. Geysaline needs to win this lane versus Stetampo, but I don't really see it happening now. He has high damage output, but it's in bursts that are going to be healed up by the time he's able to charge up his next 4.4k shot thanks to that Pam turret.
And the nest eggs have already all been thrown down. The healing turret is in a location that really can't be affected at all by Team S1. They don't have any throwers here. Stetampo just going to step back inside that. Even Chovy couldn't finish it off there. So Stetampo here sitting back, hypercharged now at the ready. Tensai walks straight up with the montage, and Crazy Raccoon are in no hurry. They have a huge lead. At some point, S1 have to commit. Here's the cocoon. And out of that will come Moya, still healthy enough at being healed instantly by that healing turret that has been there since the dawn of time. And Crazy Raccoon just getting taps on the point, stepping up here. They're going to take this round away very comfortably.
That is game 5 victory in a row for Crazy Raccoon. They stand to 6-0 sweep. Oh, why is he looking at?
I don't know. He's just like, anything else?
Like, I expected more from you guys. That was a little bit jarring. I expected to see like a look of victory or maybe a smirk on the guy's face, but he's still locked in. It's not over till it's over. 1 game between Crazy Raccoon and a perfect sweep versus Team S1 unless they can somehow switch around the momentum. We saw how the last one ended. Team S1 didn't even reach 20% capture before Crazy Raccoon ended the game with 100%. If Geysaline can get the takedown to Stetampo, once again, this vastly changes the dynamic. I think that Stetampo is just diffing the lane by mechanics.
Yeah, and Angelo is very powerful on this map. A 76% win rate for that brawler. But it doesn't look very powerful here against Stetampo, who's basically mechanically so gifted that he's just ignoring most of that Angelo damage. That is a big hit, obviously triggering the damage gear for Stetampo. So you know they're under some pressure. Now guys like to play a little bit more aggressively, right? Catches Moya out, Tensai also in trouble. Gadget used for Geysaline back inside their super just to get top back up. But this is much more even. Tensai again can approach. Geysaline has to use, was that their third and last gadget? Release their second. Either way, a little bit risky now for Angelo to play up a little bit close. Moya Not quite enough healing from that turret to stay alive through this damage, and Stetampo under some serious pressure.
Okay, Chovy can get the takedown on this turret. Tensai's actually body blocking for it. He's going to end up feeding that super to Chovy, but it's not too much of an issue as he gets to hang out, or someone gets to hang out in a cocoon for a little while. Teammates are going to be able to take care of that easily. Simultaneous hypercharges popped. It results in 1 kill so far. Tensai not going to be the next one to go down, except by the hands of Chovy. We'll see a bit more damage make its way onto Pam, but that turret is still alive. Taken down by the spiders is a bit unexpected. Team S1 lead, now approaching 65%. Crazy Raccoon scrambling for any way to push back into this point. Now Tensai has the method. He has that montage to get in, and Moya takes a much more aggressive turret than we've seen any time so far in this game.
So aggressive. Moya getting almost chunked down there. Terry's still a legitimate threat, but Shitapa's able to find the double tap. The Colette has gone down. Now Crazy Raccoon can start to catch right on up. Angelo doesn't have the gadget to fly away, and Chovy with the hypercharge is going to find himself absolutely outmatched in a 3 versus 1. Time to collect. Gets shrugged off for the most part by Crazy Raccoon as they get the lead.
Looks like a one match. Colette does not have a super, and they have so much damage to 2 through. Tensai has the montage to block it all off. Chovy can try and approach from the left side, but it's all done and dusted. A flawless 6-0 for Crazy Raccoon. And that is the face of a cold-blooded killer, my friends. Tensai has no remorse.
Is there no one else? He says. Oh, in fairness, this is just that quarterfinal. There's more with it. God, that is unnerving. Let's just fade it. Stone Cold Killer. There's Tensai and the rest of Crazy Raccoon here, and a dominant 3-0 victory will propel them now into the semi-finals to take on the winner of Never Back Down and Coco Loco, who are locked in a never-ending battle, apparently, on Brawl Ball, tied at 1-1 in that particular set, I think. So that one will be going for a little bit longer, but we'll be able to circle back to that here as we will take a moment to have a look at this game and then head to the next. But, I mean, going back to the beginning here, it really felt like Crazy Raccoon had a very powerful tank comp, and that Colette wasn't good enough to counter on her own.
It took me a moment to really think through this. I think that Stetampo sort of made a sacrifice because Angelo is like the brawler to pick here. You have the stats to back it up. That is from before the last patch just a few days ago. But I think picking up that Bell meant that S1 couldn't pick it with that Pam and the Buster in mind. Just really good picks into both of them. They still picked up the Colette anyways, and the Colette did make some like serious waves in terms of damage, but that's one brawler versus 2. You have 2 teammates that are also like struggling in their respective aspects. But I like that Stetampo picked up this brawler to allow his teammates to have their pretty free picks, and then he diffed the lane when he was totally outmatched, in my opinion.
And I see this aggressive switch here from Moya, right? Putting that turret right up in enemy territory against their barrier. Very clearly telegraphed the Crazy Raccoon were not messing around. They were not taking any prisoners by that point, because in that last round, that Angelo matchup was getting a little bit more challenging for Stetampo, but we saw the raw mechanics on display there. So many of those shots being dodged here. A lot of those Angelo gadgets being forced out early as they back away. They have to sort of heal up inside that super. But in general, Crazy Raccoon, a fantastic showing here. And Team S1 are no slouches, right? They've been a fixture in our APAC monthly finals. But this Crazy Raccoon team have really tightened up the drafts, right? That was that criticism of them last month. They've all looked impeccable so far, and they weren't afraid to walk into a potential Colette counterpick, which did end up getting locked in, because they had so much durability and so much, I guess, like safety. It was just a generally very robust comp. Tensai is your MVP as voted by you over at event.brawlstars.com. It's a good choice. I absolutely support this decision. Crazy Raccoon here do not want a rocky road through this monthly final. Last time it was 3-1, 3-2, 3-2. This time it's a clean sweep for them. It's got to feel good to start on the right foot.
I think Tensai was showing more emotion in that illustration than he was IRL. I think he was actually like giving his best Naui 297 impression. The face of winning the world finals. Stone, cold, ice in the veins. That said, though, I mean, good win for these guys. It is interesting to kind of power scale things now. Crazy Raccoon, their round 1 effort, I mean, takes down single-handedly the best that S1 had to offer. If that doesn't express the level of skill that Crazy Raccoon are coming at this matchup today, then, you know, I don't know what will. Maybe their semifinals match will convince you.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. But for now, we're going to table our Crazy Raccoon roster and give them a chance to rest. Coming up, of course, the new sensation here in the APAC region, Na'Vi will be taking on 3R games. So don't go too far. We're going to go to a quick word from our sponsors, and we'll be back with quarterfinal, number 4.
The Snapdragon Pro Series Brawl Stars Championship is brought to you by Snapdragon Elite Gaming, Monster Energy, and DHL.
That's right, folks. The wait is over. May the 29th, Squad Busters will launch globally. It's an exciting time, of course. Another global launch for Supercell. And you can pre-register for that game to get involved on day one over at Google Play and your app stores, respectively. It's going to be a fun game. I know you guys might have had a chance to even sort of play it in advance. Like, what are your thoughts? Are you looking forward to finally seeing this hit stores properly?
I'm excited. I've had the opportunity to play it and all of the Supercell characters and the universe coming together for a pretty unique game. I haven't played anything quite like it, so I'm definitely excited for it, and I know already spent some time playing it too.
I mean, I was really grinding the game during some of the betas, like exploring all it had to see. What do you mean checks out? Yeah, grinding the beta to see all my progress erased at the end of 2 weeks. But it's a main game now.
Bro,
now it's
you grind games pointlessly, all right? I know where your shirt's from. I know what the reference is.
Yeah.
Okay? It's just a thing that you do. You have to own it at this point. Getty, you've been out there. You've been on the streets. The streets have been talking. You've been out there checking out what's going on our B streams. Why has been happening that Never Back Down Coco Loco match?
Very good matchup so far. I got to catch especially the Brawl Ball set, and it was a thriller of a matchup, a back and forth the whole way through. Shu had a nasty goal to clinch that set, so really impressive stuff. And that one might come down to the wire, looking like a 2-1 lead right now. Obviously, you guys just caught Crazy Raccoon give a smackdown to Team S1. We still got the second half of the quarterfinals on the way. I'm very excited for these next two matches.
Oh, absolutely. We get a rematch, and then we get to see Na'Vi make their debut. That'll be on our stream, of course. Hey, event.brawlstars.com. If you aren't watching over there, I strongly recommend it, especially if you've got your Supercell ID connected. You can vote on your MVPs, you can make your predictions on who win the matches, and there are a bunch of random trivia questions that also pop up that allow you to earn more progress and more star drops there. Check it out. It's well worth your time. A great way to watch and also earn. Let's move ahead, though. Na'Vi versus 3R Gaming. Now, one of these teams may be a little bit more hyped coming in. A lot of that has to do with name power. But we have a previous world champion in a Chapi alongside Levi and Shizuku. And this is a team, ready, set, that had a blistering run through the monthly qualifiers.
Yeah, this one was quite interesting. They managed to only drop 2 games total in the qualifiers. They're looking very, very strong coming into this one. They even defeated Crazy Raccoon in the upper bracket, so they themselves did qualify through the upper bracket. This team is adjusted. They now have Shizuku instead of Icy, who's actually going by a different name, now going by Sakura, on a different team in these monthly finals today. This is going to be
they can produce for us now after raising expectations considerably. Kenny, let's talk 3R Gaming, because we do have, of course, a previous Zeta Division and Zeta Division 1 representative on this team in the form of Mameshi.
Yeah, Mameshi was only top 24 last month, which, especially considering the name, the reputation in past years being with Team Flash, making it to the LCQ, WWW for the Snapdragon Pro Series. You know, Mameshi's no slouch. And so adding on IC, who's now going by a different name, like Reddy mentioned, this one's a very personal matchup. So it's really exciting to kind of see this be an opening rounder for a team in Na'Vi who missed out on last month and desperately needed these points. And then 3R, who's got a little bit of a grudge match and some familiarity with the enemy side. So there's a lot to love about this.
Mameshi kind of swagging out of control with that STMN shirt on. I see you there. And again, this is someone who's competed on the world stage. That's probably where they were able to trade jerseys with that STMN crew. Definitely a team to be respected. I guess their run through the qualifiers is less exciting than Na'Vi's. I mean, they beat this Feasible Gaming team, who I think took a map of Crazy Raccoon, and then they had to face Revenant Esports in like the upper bracket final, and they got crushed. So they had to come in through that lower bracket. I think, you know, on paper and as per our predictions, we definitely have them as underdogs in this matchup. Na'Vi have just impressed us incredibly. This is a team that's also been scouted out by a massive organization that's put up great results in the past in Brawl Stars. And guys, you have a chance to change your preds at all? I don't really expect you to, as we've not seen either of these guys play yet. But you know, just how bad is it for 3R on paper? Is there a legitimate competition to be had here? Ready, set?
I honestly think probably this is the best that 3R has to offer, right? This is all the preparation going into just facing Na'Vi. I think also like IC, he was kicked from that roster. Of course, IC now being Sakura on the side of 3R. I still think that IC is a really good player. He's not necessarily the lifeblood of the team. He's a new addition, but I do think that there's like a legitimate chance that they get a set or two off of Na'Vi.
Thank you very much, Ready Set. We'll be catching up with you on the other side of this game and maybe check in on how the B stream is doing. If you're at event.brawlstars.com, you can go to the drop-down menu on the top left and switch streams. You can jump in between our stream and I think it's Wiggly Spoon. That's right, our featured B streamer. So head over there, see what's going on. Don't forget to come back here and see the result of this game. Kenny, I think Ready set it up pretty well for us, right? It's a rivalry-laden matchup, but Na'Vi are setting the pace here. They've set the benchmark for excellence in this APAC region after exploding onto the scene. We definitely expect them to be looking dominant heading into Bell's Rock.
It's going to be an interesting map, too, especially with all these balance changes that just recently went down. I'm expecting big things from Kit here. I think it's an excellent brawler right now. I'm looking at you. I'm looking at the map. I'm just trying to figure out who I'm speaking to here. But yeah, Kit showing up in the band stage at this point. That's a brawler that I am anticipating, especially in a lot of these knockout kinds of maps, to show up. And getting Gene this early on, I think, is a big deal. Gene is in a fantastic spot right now after recently getting that hypercharge.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sending 3 hands out instead of 1 seems pretty darn good, especially if you're unsure if you can actually connect on a single pull. Now you can really make sure you grab that opponent, bring them into their ultimate demise. As again, a knockout, that's such an important mechanic to be able to abuse. Here's Meg to round out the composition here. Still very powerful in knockout as the round starts to progress, but Ruff's got through the band and gets picked up here. I mean, I feel like, you know, the sandbags do a lot of work for you here, and you can play around that. But Charlie and Piper to round out this Na'Vi composition. Both these teams are playing with power.
Gene and Max is one of the most common archetypes actually on this map right now, especially given that both of them got some upgrades recently. Meg needs no introduction, especially considering what we saw from her last month. But I think people would be a little bit surprised from the casual level at how much Colonel Ruffs actually shows up here. Colonel Ruffs is commonly played. A lot of the scrim data from this region this week showed that Colonel Ruffs is still around. I think powering up teammates, having the bounce shot, a lot of reasons that people love Rico, mixed with the aspect of being there for teammates, is a big deal. And especially when you only get 1 life every single round, a Choppy powering up his allies is a huge deal.
Right, I mean, not only through the supply drop, but also field promotion. If you have a chance to group up, that, you know, adds virtual healing, but also increasing that maximum HP up to a certain limit. Definitely not something to count out. Now, obviously, Levi is definitely going to outrange the Gene here, so we are going to see a very strong lane for Na'Vi on this right-hand side.
I mean, one cocoon could literally change the impact and give an Instant kill for the other side. A little speed boost on the left-hand end, though, and the spawners will rain down. A choppy grouping up with Suzuki here. A phase force away, and now the cocoon going down. Fortunately, Meg has 2 lives. She's got the giant monster truck, and then the other end of it as well, but they're going to eradicate her instantly.
Now she's got nowhere to run. She pops out of the cocoon, and yet she doesn't take damage from it because that's not the star power Suzuki has, but still very powerful to lock someone in place, and Nekozek just runs into the gas. Not to feed over too much super, but I got bad news for them. There are 2 supers ready and waiting. One of them being deployed now as the supply drop comes down to power Levi up.
Levi going to get some extra damage, some extra HP, and not to mention as well, you mentioned it earlier with the sandbags. Oh, nasty pull going through. They need the quick reflexes. Levi gets out of harm's way just in time. The sandbags being deployed as an escape mechanism as well. The extra spiders cover them as well. So all things considered, Na'Vi getting out of a very bad situation there.
That is a pick you really need to secure here. I mean, that magic hand only comes up so often because you're not doing a ton of damage here as Gene. Like, it's generally just a little bit of poke, and normally after your first projectile splits. So it takes a lot of hits to charge that super up in general. And that's not going to be available, maybe even for the rest of this round. Na'Vi grouping up here. Maybe a lane swap now as Levi wants to get the demeched Meg battle. And that's dangerous for Sakura. Oh, nicely done. Good gadget to block the homemade recipe shot. But Sakura does take a big hit after, and he's going to have to give a lot of ground.
Now the sandbags going down as well. The pool going to be much more difficult to land until they clear those out of the way. The evil spirits, more spawners raining down from the right-hand side. The big hook connects, though. Suzuki and Coverall stays alive for now. A choppy trying to rain in as well. Levi forced to dive away and into the fog. Easy pickings here for 3R Gaming, who clean up the round.
Nicely done by Nekozek, able to build up another magic hand there, and it ends up being the decider. Now with the map broken up a little bit more, Gene can more consistently get that poke damage down. There's a hypercharge available, so we know exactly what is going to happen once another super has been earned by the Gene on this right-hand side.
That hypercharge is a nasty one, too. It is so insane to watch. One gene pool already so valuable. Let's triple it when that hypercharge goes down. I'm really excited to see how that plays out. Not to mention, too, Mameshi now going to add some speed. The super being charged up, the hypercharge available alongside it, like you mentioned, and great positioning now for 3R Gaming.
Suzuki reluctant to give up too much ground. They do at least have Cocoon available, but Levi doesn't have a good angle on this. They're basically taken out of the game. I don't know how they got Nekozek. That was stunning. A second shot to take the Gene down, and a Cocoon hastily broken by Sakura. Phase shifter has to be used by Mameshi to get out of the range of this Piper, but Sakura has had to sacrifice themselves. It was noble, don't get me wrong, but ultimately, it's futile.
Really well played here. I just think this composition is going to do really well. They have the spiders and the sandbags before that miraculous Piper jump. That's kind of the lines that I was going to discuss as well. I feel like they're just so equipped for getting out of bad situations. Normally, Gene can be somebody that counters Piper, but having that super available was great. Having the sandbags go down, having the spiders there to deploy as well, all of that adds up to just make it more and more difficult for brawlers, especially like Max and Gene, who are more of that poke damage that you mentioned to pierce through all that.
Machapi getting aggressive here, gets a couple of taps on Mameshi early. These are players that were under the same umbrella for quite some time, well acquainted with one another. There's a Spiderling. Suzuki able to use him to bully this left side lane. Mameshi is hiding. Supply drop going to secure the kill, if not a chopping round in the corner and ending it. It was a trade though. The Charlie got picked up in the meantime, and Nekozek wants to play awful aggressive. Levi has to use Poppin here. Those are indestructible blocks, so Levi not taking out any walls after using that. Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful for Nekozek. And there's a hand up here as well. 3R are very well positioned.
3R Gaming weathering the storm there. Na'Vi had their foot to the gas pedal there. They were ready to get aggressive, and it did not pay off. Charlie got picked off, and now a Choppy just forced to go back into the storm here. Might be getting a little greedy going for a super here, but does know that it's not a big deal to charge up the enemy side supers, especially considering it's Meg, and Gene already has theirs. So it's going to be a 3R Gaming round, and a very well played one at that.
Yeah, stunning. I mean, being able to get the Charlie there, I think was very important. Not the brawler you want to be going down too early. Mameshi eats a shot there from Levi straight away. It's going to force them out of mid. Will allow a Chapin to have more room to breathe. Suzuki's getting pasted by this Meg damage, but can trade back pretty effectively at mid-range.
I'm surprised that Choppy not gluing to his teammates a little bit more. Trying to give them a little extra power up here to charge them up and gain that extra HP that's so valuable in a one live mode. Ooh, a toughness there as well. Levi didn't even have the jump. That would have been lethal if they ended up grabbing that instead. It's 100 HP for Gene, and now hiding. They're going to open this map wide open on that top right-hand side too, so there's nowhere to hide from the sharpshooter.
Nicely done there by Na'Vi. Not overextending on the Meg kill, knowing that they still have to deal with the mini-Meg out of the mech. and they didn't want to expose themselves to getting traded there. Hypercharge will be available here, and of course for Charlie it means that some Spiderlings are spawned on top of the Cocoon. Not the most powerful Hypercharge, but against so many of these single-shot brawlers, it's still very threatening.
A little extra charge here on the right-hand side when they want it. The max speed available. The takedown inevitable, though. Nice play there, and now it's down to just one lone brawler. Na'Vi tied things up, and everything just happened all at once there. 3R Gaming, the floor just caved from under them.
Yeah, 3 supers built here and no magic hand yet for 3R. So Na'Vi might want to go a little aggressive early. Supply drop picked up by Levi, making them a very terrifying prospect to run into. And Nekozek is still able to farm Levi for a little bit of charge, working towards that super that they better hope would come sooner rather than later.
Hypercharge available for Charlie too could be very valuable. Like we always say, that Cocoon can give you a free kill. Similar to the Gene super, those landed supers are going to make a huge difference. A little extra speed going down as well. A classic combination in Brawl Stars.
Oh, the miss!
Gene super being missed. Spiders go down though, and it's a one-on-one on this left-hand side as Mameshi rushes to try and help a teammate here. At the end of it all though, nobody goes down. It's still 3v3.
Hand available now though for Nekozek. Suzuku not able to collapse onto the mech even with the raw stat boost of the hypercharge, so it's going to have to wait for another if we even get that far. Nice taps for a Chaffee though. Going to bump themselves up this time, throw up the sandbags, get a bit more aggressive. Sakura though trying to collapse onto the left-hand side. Suzuku under a lot of pressure, but the mech super missed. They went too aggressive, and the Cocoon gets thrown out. It's so easy for Charlie to charge that super with fast shots at close range, and Na'Vi end up claiming this first set, but a much closer battle in that second round.
Game 2 was much better stuff coming in from 3R Gaming. It's looking like it's going to be a pretty good competition here, but nonetheless, Na'Vi continued their flawless run here. They were pretty impossible to defeat in the qualifiers, and now they're trying to do the same thing in the monthly finals. 3R Gaming have a lot on their hands here in this next round.
Na'Vi are in a hotel lobby, aren't they? They're in a hotel lobby. Yeah.
You know, if they're winning in a hotel lobby, I think they deserve extra respect, right? You got to think.
They must have made the trip down to Hong Kong, I guess, just to make sure that they're in the most advantageous location server-wise here. Here's your stats. There was your stats. Now they're gone. We'll talk replay first, though, again, because many of these Charlie Cocoons were impactful. Yeah, a few nerfs that she suffered. She's getting through the ban phase. Still pretty darn good in Suzuku's hands.
It was a great round overall. Again, I just feel like they had so much going for them in the Na'Vi composition. Despite Piper traditionally not being a great matchup into the Max and Gene archetype, they ended up making it work out. I mean, Levi was landing these long-range snipes like you see there. The Cocoons, well, they weren't always connecting. It was enough, and when you have that hypercharge, you get the extra spiders anyways, and having those spawners on the ground, I think, was a huge deal. A Choppy there for the extra support as well. Just a very well-rounded composition with a pretty meta composition as well. I think Na'Vi were doing great stuff there in that draft.
Yeah, pretty helpful that even if you miss the Cocoon, you still generate those Spiderlings, so at least it's like a free gadget use there. Sakura goes aggressive. That's where I feel like this just falls apart. I guess the gas is coming in, and the Meg felt like she had to make a play, but they ended up basically throwing the game away. Nothing that really could be done by 3R to salvage things. And Na'Vi continuing their trend of strength that we observed through our monthly qualifier. Great to get a set here, but plenty of resistance being offered by 3R. These players are familiar with one another, but Na'Vi would love nothing more than to explode onto the scene and get a win in their first monthly finals, maybe with the whole darn thing. That's what they're looking for here. Here's your stat breakdown, and you can see that Charlie, when she gets up close and personal, whoa, that yo-yo hits you hard and it hits you fast.
I was going to say, compared to the damage output on the other end, I mean, 61, 14, and 81 doesn't even compare. This really puts into perspective of, especially that first game where I'm sure they piled up the stats on that blue side, but nonetheless, really impressive stuff. You wouldn't really anticipate that going down from Gene and Max. They're not necessarily the heaviest hitters in the world, but Meg only seeing an 81 DPS, I think, is a huge sign of the hurt that they were really receiving.
Yeah, and again, that lane was up against like a pretty mid-range brawler, but Levi understood how to make sure they sort of stayed out of that sort of max range. And this is after Charlie receives an attack range nerf anyway. I think for like 27 to 25, so it's marginal still, but you know, we talked about it before the show. Actually, it does mean that the yo-yo comes back a little bit quicker, so you could argue that overall, you know, it's a DPS increase if you want to be cute about it, especially if you miss the yo-yo, but still, very strong matchup. That was where a lot of Na'Vi's advantage was generated from. And the Piper seemed, you know, fine. Again, was giving a lot of free poke damage to the Gene, but only 60 DPS means that those magic hands, Kenny, are taking a long time to generate. You aren't able to sort of be threatening and take advantage of that super being flashed nearly as often in the round if you're not getting the damage to get you there. And as a solo laner, sometimes Gene can be underwhelming.
I agree. I mean, in terms of the damage output, as good as the Max and Gene combination has been, it just didn't get the job done there. I think the matchups weren't necessarily proper as well. Really difficult thing to kind of go through for that 3R gaming side. Interesting stuff as we go into Hideout as well. It seems Mameshi is actually being subbed out here, so they're going to work with their full 4-man roster, which is pretty awesome to see some new players get in the mix here.
Yeah, great to see some rotations as well. Like a lot of teams haven't always found great ways to make use of the 4th player. So to see the substitute here means that we're cooking a little bit. But let's jump into the draft straight away. It is Bounty, which means Piper is going to be hotly contested. 3R, snap her up instantly.
And Gene in retaliation as well, so a little opposite of what we saw last time. I just think traditionally Gene's going to be so good into Piper, and they're going to go straight for that matchup. They're going for Max and Gene into sharpshooters. Gene isn't going to be able to take him down super easily, so Max on the other end can also help with the speed, dodge out those sharpshooter shots. It's kind of been an argument for a long time in Brawl Stars, but that combination traditionally does well into Piper. Obviously, it didn't work out last time, but different mode, you got more than one life, and we're seeing some very similar brawlers here, Uber, as Charlie's the second pick for the enemy side.
Exactly, very interesting. A lot of the bans, I think, for Na'Vi are the same. They are basically blanket banning Kit, Melody, and Angelo wherever possible by the looks. Take Nani out, of course, is the only brawler that can, really counter the Piper on virtue of having greater range, and also return to sender, completely clowning on the Piper on multiple occasions. So get that out of the picture. Also, Mandy just really has that range, and 3R just wanted to make sure that they had the best sharpshooter on the map by the looks.
Yeah, interesting to see where they go from here. On the left-hand end, I'm kind of looking out for a Buster pick, to be honest with you. You see a lot of the times that Max and Buster combination, or Gene and Buster kind of work out as well. You get the nasty little speed for Buster. You can really run it down on the enemy side, or you can go for that classic Gene plus a tankier brawler that can get a quick kill there as well. So I'm curious to see how they return the favor here. Seems that Gray's going to be the selection for our right-hand end, which I do like if they wanted to go with any ideas of a throw or anything. Obviously, got the dimensional doors to get to your enemies quicker, get in and out of kills, but at the end of the day, just some safe selections for both ends. Gus going to bring the range in as well, and that is a brawler that in scrims this region has particularly liked.
Yeah, Gus is not popular in many other regions at all. A 42% win rate on this particular map, but recently getting a buff, right? That shield given by the super now has a knockback effect, so can actually be pretty important to create that spacing. It is a bit more devastating when used in the middle of a fight. I kind of like it here as like a life preservation method. When, again, that blue star control and just, one kill can be the difference between a win and a loss.
Interesting layout here too. Makes a lot of sense though, considering Max going to go in the mid here. On the other end, it's more long-range brawlers though, so they end up sending Great in the mid, but a little mix and matching, everybody looking for their proper lane. Makes sense that they would also want to get Piper out of that situation. They don't want Gene to face off against that brawler. They'd rather duel with somebody like Gus. Also an interesting call out too, that Gus bubble, now that it bounces back, if somebody tries to get aggressive on him, it's going to be an instant defense mechanism if they do have that super.
Yeah, it's going to be like almost like a last hurrah from Tick, right? Because that knockback is really powerful. Sorry, I tell a lie. Gus is a 61% win rate. It's Gray with a 42%. So, while the concept of Gray seems very good, it's not it's not the best all-in comp here from 3R, but they've got amazing long-range pressure there as Yumagoku is able to find that first kill.
Now a little speed being delivered here. A phase shift in. Sakura trying to stay up here. The pull going through. The super connected as well. It's a red roster slaughter right now, as it's going to be another blue member going down. Na'Vi with a big deficit to start off this game.
Now look how little Max does when those spiderlings get in front of the Charlie. Eventually, though, those gadgets are going to be exhausted, but Na'Vi need to play the aggressor role now in a big way. Nekosek with 4 stars, including the blue, is crucial, and Yumagoku has super available, so that's not really a viable target to all in. Levi has to phase shift her away and almost falls to that homemade recipe. They need to take a breather here and get some magic puffs to get topped up.
The long-range super along with the hypercharge too. Popping that hypercharge early, knowing they were one shot away from that super. A missed max pull as well. A teleport not going to be enough, though. Things just got a little interesting, Uber.
1 star the difference here, and the mechanics from Levi are stunning. Dodging so many of these shots now. 6 seconds left and a 1-star difference. Na'Vi with the blue star, so they just need to equalize. Atapi's low, and I love the dive from Nekosek. That was fantastic. 3R identify an opportunity to get an easy pick, and their comp just looks a little bit more powerful.
Love the identification early on, especially. They made mid-game adjustments. They send Piper immediately over to the Gus lane. They pick up that early frag, and those are the kinds of decisions that are going to impact the result. It allowed them to take that lead, sit comfortably, and things got a little scary there at the end, but they were the ones in the driver's seat, and especially in Bounty, momentum is everything, so having that control is very important.
Okay, back to the drawing board even, RV once again. Blue Star gained, but they've got to respect the pressure that Piper can generate on a side lane. That's where Yumagoku is headed now. Navi wanted to group up now and be defensive, but there's not a lot of great places to hide here. Levi gets yanked forward with the walking cane, sticking close to a Chapi to try and shrug off as much of this poke damage as possible via healing.
Love that combination as well. Breaking down the walls and instantly some good coordination there by dropping the spiders to shield them as they take down some extra fire. Navi have just been pushed back all the way into their spawn. Gus getting the extra heals and passivity coming in from a Choppy. Levi, though, with no range, can't compete with the likes of somebody like a Gray and Piper in this situation.
Dangerous here. 3R look to be the aggressor. They look confident. And we got that defense mechanism available for the Piper. Super is up. Nekozek is well ready to dive at a moment's notice, but they need to respect the Gus shield. It's a very viable counter to any all-in method. It's unclear who's going to be the target here. Obviously much easier for Gus to shield himself when under pressure just by tapping, but Suzuka hasn't built that super yet. So there is a window of vulnerability now. Suzuka looking to try and land as many of these shots as possible. And don't forget, Cookie Popper does represent some very powerful burst damage options if you can drop a balloon down. I think we just saw it there, and that took Yumagoku almost down to nothing.
I think we're going to start to see some momentum swing towards Navi here, too. They've got 20 seconds on the clock. All of their supers now charged up, and I think they're going to ride Levi's speed all the way to the other end. A missed walking cane, and now a countdown as well. Spawners going down, left hand in. A teleport in to help the ally there. 101 HP, enough to get out of harm's way for now, but Navi need to press the issue here and hold on for dear life. There's the first takedown they need. A Cocoon going down. They don't have enough time, though. The Cocoon actually going to be the downfall. As a result, they can't grab that kill and give themselves no chance there.
That's beautiful. I mean, Levi's mechanics are phenomenal. Obviously, it's very easy to clown on like a Piper comp when you have that max super active, but even before that or outside of that situation, just the dodges and the taps were absolutely beautiful. Navi might just be able to win this out on just raw individual talent. You can see the Blue Star being much more contested now, but that's good damage for a Chapi, and the Vengeful Spirits even popped to force 3R away from the blue.
Another key Blue Star pickup there, too. All they have to do is pop that phase shifter, and they're indestructible while they grab it. And they get right back to the mid as well. Navi traveling as a unit right now. I think they've learned that maybe traveling as a pack's a little bit better when you combine it with that Gene star power there to try and get the extra heals coming in for the teammate as well. So I like this from Navi. Again, very similar to what we saw in that second game, which was pretty successful for them.
They'll be pleased about this start to the round as well. They've not put themselves in harm's way. 3R don't have any supers built up. Levi, though, that's 2 phase shifter gadget activations. Cookie Popper with a bit of extra damage on the Nekozek, but not nearly as lethal as it used to be, apparently. It used to be basically securing instant kills. Okay, so we're going to have some of the map broken up. That will be relevant later in the round if we see Navi switch to a more defensive posture again.
Interesting they go for those back walls as well. They were looking for the walking cane earlier to try and take down this little 3-pronged wall underneath the L-shaped ones there. The more open it is, the more opportunities for those long-range sharpshooter shots. And a Choppy now maybe going to get a little aggressive here. There's the pull going through. Levi with the follow-through as well, and Navi claim a victim here early.
And we saw the Max Super pop at the same time, so a Choppy can sort of walk back during that hook and, you know, drag the Charlie even further away from their teammates. Sakura absolutely dominated there. Levi definitely dodging so many of these thorny yo-yos. Yumagoku, obviously not a viable target. Levi has to use that last phase shifter to get away. They go low, and the homemade recipe pursues. Navi have a slim lead, though. No Blue Star, but a lead of 1. Suzuka now holding onto the super. Going to be looking to make use of that in the next few seconds, otherwise they will lose it. Going to be a Cocoon coming in onto the max. That's dangerous. Maybe instantly trying to give the shield to Levi, and it works. Now the super. Let's go, used by Levi. More than happy to try and duel that against Sakura. But ultimately, it's going to be Navi that win with 1 star to their name.
The timing was so perfect, too. About 450 HP, I believe, towards the end of that round. That would have swung a kill. Obviously, Max with, I think, about 100 there from the looks of it as well. So just a mere matter of seconds away from being different there. Very close call. Navi, though, keeping the win streak alive. They're up 2-0 now. That round got awfully close. So as a result, instead of this being a 1-1 kind of scenario, much more comfortable for Na'Vi.
Absolutely. Very technical end, I think, to Bounty. The composition there, like, you know, takes a lot of ability to really make work, but you found a really long-range Gene Super that connected beautifully onto the Charlie, and that's where things go great. But that first round was all about 3R. They looked dominant.
I was really impressed with 3R Gaming this round too. I feel like this just hasn't been a blowout. I mean, outside of game number 1, maybe of knockout, really a back and forth. 3R Gaming looking strong in game number 1 here. A little dive away from Piper to secure things. But I mean, rounds 2 and 3 here, just very tactical. Na'Vi pick up the game 2. 3R Gaming try and fight back here towards the end of game number 3, but it just wasn't enough. I feel like Na'Vi, once they got that blue star lead, they found an early kill here in game number 3. There was just no turning back for them.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think, yeah, this was a max range magic hand there. Absolutely beautiful. And you can sort of see, like, much of this poke damage has been put down by the Piper. She's so threatening on this map. As opposed to Bell's Rock, she has more open sight lines and she has the diagonals that she can play off. She can also go vertical, of course, and just take a, you know, a powerful lane and win it out there. But it really came down to their pick potential. Na'Vi did not win any of these rounds by large margins. In fact, I think on both occasions they were like between 1 and 3 stars. That's the kind of difference we're talking about here. And it requires you to walk a tightrope for so much of the round. You get the blue star, you try and play safe, somewhat defensive, get good Gene supercharge, make sure the Gust Bubble is available to be defensive, and out of nowhere, find another pick and get into the lead. It's not a flashy comp at all for Na'Vi, but the mechanics make up for the lack of flashiness in their brawler selection, I feel.
It's kind of interesting too. I mean, if I just saw that stat and saw that double the kills on the 3R Gaming side, knowing the game was Bounty and they still lost 2-1, kind of a wild thing. And I think goes to your point, right? When Na'Vi were winning, it wasn't top fragging, it wasn't dropping 20-star games. It was getting that blue star and getting the 1 to 2 kills necessary to hold on to that lead. And I think they just capitalized on that strategy. They didn't worry about being too flashy or getting overly aggressive. They just did exactly what they were supposed to do. And as a result, this is going to be a 2-0 lead rather than maybe a closer 1-1 that it could have.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think we've seen Na'Vi now show us what they're capable of. I don't think that their draft was even weaker on paper. I think it just was a little bit harder to make work. It required a higher level of skill. And it makes you wonder, like, oh, this team just I didn't come out of nowhere. I don't think that's fair to say at all. But, you know, they were brought together with very limited notice, right? I think, like, Chapi was on that reject team that ended up losing out at LCQ. I sort of remember, you know, how that all went down. I don't know if they were on that team at the sort of time, but I remember that sort of name. You know, so these guys, like, really sort of get brought together from the shell of that reject team who didn't really make it as far internationally as what they would have hoped to. Now they're reinvigorated. Now they're taking the APAC region by storm. A lot of the same brawlers coming up here, though, Kenny. We do see the Bell making a return. Charlie snapped up straight away by 3R.
Charlie and Bell going to be two of the most popular brawlers here in terms of scrims this week. I've been keeping a close eye on things with the help of analyst Costa from Reply Totem of kind of how this region's shaping up, and Piper's been the most common pick, so it makes sense to see it in the band stage. I think Amber can be a little bit of a sneaky one here too. Obviously this map is wide open, but control is everything. So having somebody like Amber to just put the pressure in the high DPS on the other end, especially to pierce through those spawners possibly that Charlie could bring to the table if they wanted to roll with spiders, could be a bigger deal here.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie, you know, she just plays a decent outside lane on this map. You can kind of juke behind those unbreakable boxes to some degree. Gus, again, definitely a power pick here. This time 3R fancy a little bit, you know, of a powerful mid. We see Carl on this map before. It's all about trying to run in. Trying to run in and trying to find these eliminations via the use of that super. Sometimes feels like a little bit of a kamikaze. At times, there's quite often the Carls that loses out in those trades, but again, you're forcing those gems to be dropped, and eventually there'll be a situation where you can do that and actually survive, bring them back to your team. If you die running back to them, that's fine. You drop them for your mid to pick up. It's pretty powerful, but it's very, very aggressive and hard to make work, I feel.
Even before the buff as well, Gus is somebody that is super popular on this map and in particularly this region. I think having that Gus bubble paired with somebody like Carl, who's not really afraid to dive in on the enemy side, like you mentioned, to use the tailspin or the flying hook, whatever that looks like. Now they have that aggressive factor to kind of pair with Carl. So I think that's actually going to be a pretty good combination. And again, I think Gus is going to surprise some people today. This is a region that is not afraid to click that button.
Yeah, he's really tanky, right? That's something that's worth bearing in mind. Gus has a lot of health for like a, you know, medium to long range a character that already has like a lot of durability baked into the super. Yumagoku's going to get flattened here. Obviously, Amber, very good against the Spiderlings. There's not much that you could sort of do about that. So, you know, very strong lane, and the lane's very up and down, right? So, you know, Amber struggles when your opponent's sort of strafing left to right, and you have to sort of, you know, slowly try and catch them with that damage. Sakura doing what Carl is supposed to do here. But Suzuki, yeah, really trying to show some dominance on the right.
All things considered, though, red roster still going to be able to grab a fourth gym if they want to there. They have to be careful because of those nest eggs, which maybe keep them away for now. Levi, though, setting up camp here in the mid as well. A nasty pull going down, a dive away, but it is futile. No, never mind. What a play there. 3R Gaming actually going to survive, but more importantly, gym carriers going down, and Carl just going to play this patiently.
You can't take
He's
the
not going to go for those gyms.
You can't.
You can't do it.
I mean, you are serving yourself up in a silver platter to the enemy team every round. I've got to say, Suzuki, absolute go. Realizes that there's some real pressure on Nekozek and just turns her attention away from flattening Yumagoku as they were for most of the round to collapsing onto that mid and to get those gems dropped. Beautiful, beautiful play from Na'Vi. Just centimeter perfect stuff. That's what we love to see. A fantastic round to kick off this set.
Na'Vi really showcasing a lot of good stuff there. One, why they deserve to be here, especially after a miss last month. It's good to see the potential that these guys showed last year, especially in that structure of reject that you mentioned as well. I mean, the team that got them booted out of the World Finals was the runner-up in STMN. So I know this team's capable. They add a new player to the fray as well, who's immediately clicking. I mean, clearly this is a combination that's working out for them.
Yeah, definitely looking like they're going to, you know, exceed the previous reputation of that reject team. Under a much fancier banner, might I add. Charlie is getting absolutely hosed, literally and figuratively. There's really nothing Yumagoku could do about it. It's just a mismatch in that lane. Now Nekozek's going to be zoned away by that Amber Super, and this is, again, a good Amber is very terrifying. Achapi, I saw that. Nice lamp blowout there to set up the kill on Sakura. And another full dive from the Carl gets foiled.
Carl just unable to really capitalize on what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to be the aggressor, the one distracting the enemies, wasting shots, but a simple lamp blowout here and there has really kept him at bay. Now all the gyms really starting to add on. Complete positioning now. Suzuki going to be able to go this right-hand in wide open. A hypercharge available for Levi. Going to pop it now. A pull going through. Not able to do much here. The follow-through kill, and they're only one gym away.
Sorry.
Somehow not a single hand connected. That's unbelievable.
That is absolutely absurd, Achapi. Nekozek just, I don't know. You thread the needle there, basically. Levi, there were 10 gems to their name. Sakura, do you have a flying hook available? Don't know if you actually have a real engage tool here. You are poking down Achapi. Okay, you do. Flying hook used, but Achapi's not the target you want. You need the gem carrier. 3R, not even close here. Gem grab absolutely one-sided. Na'Vi, clinch it. Beautiful stuff.
Felt like the first set where one-sided's the proper term, I think. I mean, that was just an impressive demonstration of mechanical skills. Liking the draft overall from him too. Na'Vi seem to be firing on all cylinders right now, which is really good considering down the other end of the bracket, you got somebody like Crazy Raccoon with a ton of potential and currently leading this region. Na'Vi have plenty of work left to do today, but this is a good showing to give us a chance at maybe beating some Titans.
Yeah, very different to last month. We actually saw a lot of like very close quarterfinal games, even semifinals, but we already have our front runners pretty well established. It's actually on the B stream where we've seen a lot of the sort of more closer games. So we'll be trying to keep you up to date with those ones. Our first quarterfinal was finally resolved. It was Coco Loco winning 3-2 against Never Back Down. They will advance to take on Crazy Raccoon in that first semi-final. That means Revenant Esports and Angelic is still underway. We'll check in with that in just a moment here. But I mean, let's talk about this. I think the Amber pick was a stroke of genius. There is nothing Yumagoku could do against Suzuki.
This was just a dominant matchup in general. I mean, Suzuki on that Amber was an absolute problem. Levi felt like he never really went down either, just comfortably able to walk in and out of the mid, get those nest eggs established as well. And Achapi had some nice pulls, dealt with the Carl very well. I just felt like Na'Vi weren't doing anything wrong. And of course, the result showed that as well.
Levi, they're even getting a mark onto the Charlie. Seems a little bit unnecessary. You saw the game plan there for the Carl. Dive the Gene, but Gene has so many self-peel tools. 324 DPS from Levi. Disgusting. And yeah, that's why Yumagoku has a very quiet game. They can't do too much. I think Gus is such a robust, defensive, healthy gem carrier. What, you end up with like, with the shield on you, it's like 11,000. like Frank level health pool with a knockback on top of the super now. So yeah, really hard to do much about them. They hit hard. Kooky Popper also lets you get like extra burst damage on your shots. You're kind of doing everything very well. But Bell, that hypercharge is great. And again, getting a mark against the Gus kind of nullifies a lot of that defensive capacity, just amping all of your damage from then on out. So a great answer to a very defensive mid.
And if Jeed's dropping 7 kills for your side, you're probably winning the set, right? I mean, more than the entire enemy team as well. But as a result, the people at home have spoken. Levi going to be your all's choice of MVP. And I think a deserving candidate of that, considering what we saw from the man today.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff there from Levi. I think just on mechanical level, we saw a lot of the Max play. I was blown away. These guys chill. They're in Hong Kong. They're playing in a hotel lobby. They're just chilling out. They're enjoying the ambiance, and they're absolutely dominating. That's what we love to see. Play the game, see the world is what they say, folks, especially when you're incentivized to travel to the center of the server that you're playing on to make sure you have the edge. Event.brawlstars.com. We're over on that side. If you're not there already, I recommend you head over. That's where you can watch along with us and earn some fantastic in-game rewards. You'll also have access to all the alternate streams. The B stream, of course, with Wiggly Spoo, and the Japanese stream. So head over there, check them out, and give them your love as well. We'll be back after the break. We're going to be recapping what has happened on the B stream and set our sights forward to our semi-finals.
The Snapdragon Pro Series Brawl Stars Championship is brought to you by Snapdragon Elite Gaming, Monster Energy, and DHL.
Achapi, you've already won the World Cup twice. How did it feel to realize you were the best in the game?
いや、特に、なんすかね、自分うまいなとかあんま天狗とかにはなってないんですけど、3回目の世界大会優勝を目指して頑張ってますって感じです。
Suzuku, you're completely new to the team. Have you had time to settle in?
はい、もともと別に仲良かったんで大丈夫です。
Levy, what do you think about your teammates? What are their biggest strengths?
アチャピは、リーダーかつチームのバランスを整えて存在で、雫は、自分たち2人が使えないキャラを使えたり、無双してもらえる。取らないといけないっていう前向きに。
でも全く同じですね。
What is your opinion about other teams in the region?
はい、待ってないとき。ダークホースのチームはエンジェリックで、あんまり知らなかったんですけど、先月のマンスリーで準優勝したんで強いなと思いました。で、強いと思うチームは CR です。では、ピックもうまいし、プレーもめっちゃうまいんで強いです。
あとは AGC で、理由は、個性のキャラの使い方がうまくて対応が難しい部分があると思うからです。で、強いと思うチームは CR で、アジアの地域の中だったらもうずっとトップにいて、もう PS も前からです。
ダークホースだと思うチームは FG で、理由はメンバーが新しくなってちょっと怖いなって感じです。で、ライバルだと思うチームはクレイジーラクンで、やっぱりアジア1位で、強いなって感じです。
Which brawlers are in the meta right now?
はい。今一番強いと思うキャラクターはチャーリーで、理由はチャーリーがいれば何でもできるんで、とりあえずチームに困ったらチャーリーを入れとけば勝てます。
How often do you train now and plan to train before the finals?
今やってることは毎日、夜3時間ほど練習で、チームでスクリームをして、マップでの立ち回りだったり編成を考えていることです。
What can fans expect from you at the April finals?
はい、ファンのみんながワクワクできるようないい試合を全試合できるように精一杯頑張ります。で、結果を残して優勝します。
time when dreams come true and legends are born.
Oh my word!
This is the place.
Some seriously spicy stuff. An absolute masterclass.
The place where teams from across the globe come to battle it out for their shot at glory.
Oh, you're kidding!
And a piece of up to $2 million in prizing.
No pressure, guys. No pressure.
This is the feeling.
It's beautiful.
The once-in-a-lifetime feeling of lifting the trophy at the Brawl Stars World Finals.
Here comes the push. Here's the damage. This is now the crunch time.
This is the game.
Immediately taken down. Still not going to fall. He refuses to die.
The game you love. This is the Brawl Stars Championship. Let's get ready to brawl.
That's right, folks, and don't forget, of course, Squad Busters launching globally May the 29th. You can pre-register on whatever app store is relevant to your device. I don't know you. I don't know what you use. You can just go out there and search it up, find it, right? That's exactly what I did. And we're just about to jump into our semi-finals, guys. Now, our matches pretty one-sided, right? We've been cruising through them. On the B stream, though, they've been very back and forth, right? And one of the teams featured in those games will be in this semi-final. Coco Loco managed to win against Never Back Down in a 3-2 result. It's a big deal. Going up against Crazy Raccoon, though, now is surely to be their biggest challenge yet. Kenny, Reddy, you both had a chance to check out what was going on the B stream. Would love to get your thoughts on how this match should play out.
Well, I had a chance to see a little bit of the Never Back Down Coco Loco. I'm sure by the time it wrapped up, Reddy got to catch the second half, but the first half was really exciting, especially that Brawl Ball set. So I'm curious to hear, Reddy, how it exactly ended in the way that it did.
Yeah, this one went all the way to a double match point. The last set was super entertaining. We saw Coco Loco pick 3 mids on Rustic Arcade, and they went for some lane switches and stuff, but they had good counter picks. I think one of the more entertaining things to me was a lane Gene, which it just doesn't happen. I don't think I've ever seen that in competitive before, but it worked enough for them to get a 2-1 victory in that set, and they won the game 3-2, or they won the match 3-2 overall. That was a pretty entertaining one. Definitely one worth going over to the VOD of the B stream afterwards and checking out.
Now let's talk predictions for this semi-final. Coco Loco had a 7th seed coming in and had a bit of a rocky time, I think, getting knocked down by S1 to the lower bracket and having to fight their way through there. We are all on the Crazy Raccoon Na'Vi train. We had Never Back Down in our first quarterfinal, so we kind of suck, but that's all right. Sometimes that's the way the cookie crumbles. We also believe that Revenant will win against Angelic, but that game is crazy and still ongoing, and we all basically flipped a coin for that one. However, the story is we all believe that Crazy Raccoon are set to win here against Coco Loco. It definitely feels like a less difficult game to predict. Crazy Raccoon, their drafts, guys, their drafts look bloody good. They look much cleaner than last month. Because, Kenny, that was like a big criticism we had of them, having to reverse sweep to win that grand final.
I think it's been the one thing that's kind of been the criticism of any time that they've, lost a big matchup. I think especially at the World Finals, they got flack. Yeah, I mean, it's part of it, right? And it's a really difficult thing to get down. I mean, all things considered, too, this week, we had hypercharges, balance changes. There's a lot to juggle here for these pro players. So sometimes you're not going to be perfect. But, I mean, especially for a quarterfinal, that was about as good as it gets.
All right, ready, set. I want you to whet our appetite as we jump into this game for real. Coco Loco featuring some very well-known names. I like to think. Response, X9J and Hiroshi had a banger of a matchup in that quarterfinal, a 3-2 victory. A team that had to fight really hard to be here. Some pretty crazy moments to close it out.
Yeah, and of course, we all predicted that Never Back Down would actually take this one. Coco Loco, this is a team with history in Brawl esports. Some players, especially if we talk like X9J and Hiroshi, they played on Team Flash last year going to LCQ. We saw a response of last year's Revenant departing the roster and joining this roster. And he was world champion in 2020. I believe he was MVP at World Finals in 2020 as well. I mean, these are historical players. So seeing them on this free agent roster should not do anything to sort of lower your expectations of them.
Okay, so we definitely expect much from them, but Crazy Raccoon not only had the reputation, but also can he already have a really strong showing in that first quarterfinal to sort of, ride on. We all predicted them to win here, and I feel like that's for a pretty good reason because they looked above reproach earlier.
They look good today. They've got the history, the resume. I mean, it's pretty hard to bet against these guys against just about anybody in the world, especially when Tinsai was glaring at our eyes and screens earlier today. It got to me a little bit, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to bet against these guys this month.
Yeah, you know what? I kind of feel that. We talked about how, remember last month, we said Tensai looks mad, like legitimately angry, not just like staring you down. He was like I feared for any drywall installation, I think I said, with like reach, because they were getting pushed to the very limit. And I think that they expected more from themselves in a game like that. And it showed, because we only had Tensai's cam. He was just like, he was pissed, guys. There's no other way of putting it here. Coco Loco, though, maybe, you know, without the weight of expectations on their shoulders, gives them a little bit of freedom. Maybe makes them feel a little bit more comfortable. Here's X9J, who is chilling, not in a hotel room, not in a hotel lobby, just chilling in their room. Nice little MKB up there, ready to game, ready to hit the ground running here, and maybe look for an upset win over Crazy Raccoon. I don't know, that's a tall order, I think, to ask from this team, but we've already seen them, I think, perform better than, you know, we expected after seeing their run through the qualifiers, which was rocky at best. Coco Loco v Crazy Raccoon. I think I'm still feeling comfortable about my particular prediction here. I'm definitely on board with that one. Keep you updated as well. The B stream's still going. I think Revenant were able to win that first set out, but it's been a pretty back and forth affair. So we'll try and keep you updated on how that is progressing. One more chance, guys. You can change their Preds. You want to change the Preds, boys? No. Give you one opportunity. No?
Yeah,
all right.
I'm good.
Don't want to give the opportunity. Take it away, guys. I'm gonna leave you to it. I'm gonna step aside, see what's happening on the B stream, Kenny. It's all yours.
Appreciate you, Uber. Enjoy another heated matchup on the other end. For now, Reddy and I are going to take over some Crazy Raccoon and Coco Loco, and it looks like the people at home, Reddy, kind of lining up with us. 90-10, that's nothing to slouch at.
Yeah, this is about what you would expect. Coco Loco, this roster coming in, all of us predicted that they would end up falling in that very first matchup. They end up managing to clutch it out in a double match point, just literally as close as it gets, with actually some creative comps. But we've seen Crazy Raccoon get their comps on point today, so I don't know if that's going to be enough to upset these guys. We even saw in moments, I want to talk like Dueling Beetles in particular, in Crazy Raccoon's quarterfinal. We saw Stetdampo play that Bell into an Angelo lane where he was absolutely outmatched brawler-wise, and he still diffed that lane 100% of the time. It's very impressive. Mechanical skill goes a long way here.
Draft can only take you so far, right? At the end of the day, it's how you implement it. So I think that's a great tell of how good these guys can be. And in terms of the ban phase, somebody that, like I said earlier, that's been catching my eye in the scrims, in the balance changes, the first one that kind of caught my attention. It's going to be the cat on the other end. It's going to be Kit hitting the ban stage again. This is Bounty as well. We do expect people like Bell and Gene to get drafted here as well, especially Bell, Gene, Nani being the most picked in our monthly qualifiers. Keep in mind too, though, that data is good, but we did have a recent set of balance changes too, which can change things up a little bit. And I mean, obviously, people are prioritizing the Angelo ban, which makes sense why Crazy Raccoon threw it out the window.
I think this one's quite interesting to see Kit banned by the team that has last pick, because this is usually how you'd want it to go. Kit isn't really like a first pick brawler, at least historically. In this new meta that's only been around for a few days by this point, it's entirely possible. We see that Gene for selection as a result, though, and Gene's hypercharge is just so insane. I also see that Max has been banned on Coco Loco, which is very wise by them. Max is just like a must pick absolutely everywhere, and you don't want to let that fall into the hands of a team like Crazy Raccoon either.
Max and Gene right now, especially getting the hypercharges, the history that combination brings, it's very popular, and it was the most played specific combination in this region in scrims this week leading up to this. So it makes sense that one of them would be gone. Somebody that's a little bit of a surprise factor here, though, it's going to be Mandy. And I'm sure the sharpshooter capability is a big reason for that. And of course, it's a must hit and kind of watch super there. So I think if Mandy can hit a cross-court shot, it'll be something to see.
Okay, so we see the Charlie that's ready to deal with the Carl here. Carl is fairly decent into the Charlie because you can slice through all of those spiders. Larian Lari is the final selection from Crazy Raccoon here. The tick was available, but I think Larian Lari will be much better at dealing with a close range interaction. You're also not playing versus another thrower, so you don't need to worry about that matchup. That's where Larian Lari usually fails, is in a matchup versus another thrower. And Crazy Raccoon actually learned this lesson the hard way, as we saw Tensai play Larry into Angelic's Willow last month on, I believe it was Pinball Dreams, and got out DPS'd just like crazy. So this is a wise throw pick from the guys. It's going to be a little challenging to deal with a Carl that's going aggro into you. Response is actually going to go for that blue star. That's just the way that you play Carl when it comes to bounty. Get the blue star for free. Now Crazy Raccoon got to play the aggro.
That's a huge motivation for also going Carl. And to kind of touch on that matchup you were speaking on as well, we saw Tick versus Larry Laurie earlier, and we know how that went. So now that Tick not really in the picture, another thrower not in position, you can kind of go Larry and Laurie with some better matchups here. And we're already seeing the aggression pan out as well. Tinsai marching his way down the sideline here. Satapo trying to expand to the mid. CL going to be put in a corner here if they're not careful.
Coco Loco just backing up gradually. We see Tensai trying to make the use of the walls where he can. Okay, big pinch on a Tensai, huge positioning. They end up getting the takedown. The Crazy Raccoon fire back. The use of the Mandy super, but no kill. Coco Loco remain in the lead. And Setapo has his super to use if Response decides to gadget in. We see the spiders come down, blocking up some good damage from Hiroshi. But that's all it really amounts to. X9J marked. Response going for the big kill on Tensai. And a missed super from Stetampo, but they still secure a kill.
Oh, and the little nest egg there, getting the best of Mandy. The easy follow-through tag as well, the slowdown there, and that's a big reason why Belle is so valuable right now among the sharpshooters. Sure, she's not going to do best in the one-on-one matchup against somebody like a Piper or a Nani, but the utility that Belle can bring to the table, along with that hypercharge and the stat boost with it, such a big deal, and we're really starting to see why people are so used to picking this brawler, why it's so apparent in our current meta.
Bell has that hypercharge and super combo too. Response is the ideal target to hit here. Now, Response could gadget out of the way, but I think it would be ideal to use that in the last few seconds, which are rapidly approaching. You see the Vengeful Spirits in to weaken up some enemies. Lane switch over to the left and a takedown onto X9J. Crazy Raccoon with all the stars that they need. Hiroshi goes for the pull, but only gets a spider in response. With just a few seconds left, there's no room for Coco Loco to bring this one back. Crazy Raccoon take game one.
Textbook stuff there. They stuck around the entire time, eventually swinging that blue star their way, and along with it, a few frags. Impressive stuff, and again, every time we've looked at this player, it came from Tensai. He's just locked in. I think even though they won the monthly finals, this man is looking for number 18, by the way. 18 monthly finals is unbelievable, and he's just as hungry for this one, I think, as he has been ever, at least just based on his facial expressions. It's unbelievable how driven and how into the game these guys have been.
Dude's clocking in, just showing up to his job, but he does it so well. We see Coco Loco with a different approach to mid this time. Nice dodges for X9J, I want to note on the left side. He managed to get that blue star, which avails Response the ability to go aggro if he needs into Tensai. We see Stetampo sticking nearby at all times because he's the tank counter. Charlie's good at a lot of things, but tank countering is just what she's best at because she gets what's essentially like a 7-second stun when you hit that cocoon. We'll see, though, Response now coming in, looks for the gank on Tensai, but X9J was the one to finish it off. That range is hurting Stetampo right now as Charlie received a slight range nerf. Caused him to miss that shot on Response. So far, Coco Loco remain firmly in the lead with a 5-0 star lead.
And they're trying to time those Larry shots just right, so the reverb gets the connection there. Response, though, adding a shield, a little tailspin, and another frag added on to Coco Loco's list. They need to be careful here, though. Moya with the flank. Charlie back in action as well, and Response taking a lot of heat right now. The passive healing and the aggression contrasting with the other end. Unbelievable stuff for Coco Loco this round. They're really taking off with it.
Response needs this kill on Tensai. He does manage to come through. 12-4 scoreline at the moment. Now, the lead narrowing to just 5 stars. Crazy Raccoon got to be patient here. They have Coco Loco all the way on the ropes, and they have had them there for a long time. With the hypercharge in, Stetampo's looking to get his super. He must be just like one hit away. Doesn't get anything as a result, and he cannot hit these shots either. He does hit that shot that he needed to onto Response, but he doesn't manage to make anything happen with that super. Coco Loco almost getting that 20-star mark. This is fantastic, and that hurt. I mean, Stetampo was not hitting those shots.
And even with Carl going down, a huge star carrier for them, they still had a 7-star lead. A huge turnaround here from Coco Loco in game number 2. I think Carl surviving early on and more interactions really made the difference as well. I mean, that's 2 to 4 stars if it's 1 to 2 lives lost there. Mandy picking up that early kill as well and surviving, getting that interaction when on the left-hand side when the pinch was going down the right. Everything just perfect there for Coco Loco. They're actually not going to go for this blue star, which is interesting response. Going to position himself on the right-hand side. I don't know if that's a good thing or a mistake, considering that, well, now he's kind of leaving his position. I mean, overall, I would say that was not a good interaction.
Oh, they're looking for the early pinch. Well, Response isn't going to get the kill on a Tensai, but they still did get that interaction on the right lane. They fed the blue star to Crazy Raccoon. The thing is, they gave it to Tensai. He's like almost the safest brawler. He gets to sit behind walls. The only target that can really take him down is Response. And I think Tensai is also just kind of playing a patient game. If X9J gets in here, he'll be able to go for a pinch. Crazy Raccoon are setting themselves up pretty strongly on these lanes, but we'll get a taste of what Coco Loco can now offer on offense, because we haven't seen them in this position for the entire set so far. It's already resulted in 3 kills for Crazy Raccoon.
Crazy Raccoon, a complete reversal of how the tempo of this is going. They get that early lead. They set up the nest eggs. They have Larry Laurie just hunkered down at that L-shaped wall on the right-hand side. They don't need to get aggressive. They can sit back and relax. The only one that can get really aggressive is Response. Unless Hiroshi hits the pool of his life here, he's going to be calculated about this. They have to make it count. You only get 1 to 2 gene pulls typically a game, so they can't afford to miss here.
Hiroshi's looking for it. Stetampo would be a bad target. He has the spiders. Missed super from Stetampo. Hyper connects on a Response from Moya, and it's good. 5 to 10 though, as Hiroshi picked up a kill on Stetampo. It's still possible for Coco Loco to bring this back and take a set off of last month's monthly final winners. Tensai has all the defense in the world. Response is forced to move in. Stetampo's out of a super. He's going to try and get it faster. Now gets a kill and the cocoon onto our brawler on the left side. Hiroshi now surrounded and taken down. There's no possibility of a comeback for Coco Loco at this point.
A complete opposite of what we just saw in game number 2. What a back and forth set the whole way through, as CR planned to finish things off here with a 1-0 lead in sets. 17-5, the final score of game number 3. And a little smile cracking for Tensai there. Maybe letting himself feel a little something there. I mean, very well deserved, especially considering that there was a little shaky in game number 2 there for Crazy Raccoon. They bounced back immediately in game number 3 with a complete change of pace, which I'm really impressed with the adjustments.
I think honestly, game number 2 could have completely been a Crazy Raccoon had we seen Stetampo basically do his thing on the Charlie. He was in close range, just the shots weren't connecting. That's how Charlie is usually played. You get in close range and you just, like, you know, auto aim. If you're on 0 ping, which these guys most certainly are, then you really do just auto aim from a couple tiles away or 3 tiles away. You're going to hit every single shot. But the math did not work out this time. He was just a little bit too far away and actually missed every shot. He popped his hyper when he was 1 shot off of super, and he just could not get that yo-yo to connect. And this is the moment right here where he just could not get that shot, unfortunately. Finally got into Response, and you can see it was only 1 shot that he needed, but it was too little, too late.
Love the cheeky kill from Jay up close. More of a shotgun with that Mandy super there on the left-hand end. I believe against Bell a little earlier ago. But here's this game number 3. I mean, Crazy Raccoon get that early interaction win, and because of that, they have a lead. And also because of that, they can just sit there Larry Laurie behind that wall. They know they don't have to get overly aggressive because they're not going to have any angles on the other end. Mandy's going to have to work around that wall. Gene's going to get some maybe poke damage at best, and Carl's going to have to fly in with a literal flying hook if he wants to touch Larry Laurie. And I think because of that, it was a real runaway there, and Crazy Raccoon were able to display their strategy to perfection there. But all things considered, I mean, the kill category close there, I'm sure that was due to a lot of game number 2 for Coco Loco, but the same can be said for Crazy Raccoon on round 3. So maybe we'll have a little competition on our hands here. Ready?
Dude, I was mad impressed by what Coco Loco had to offer here. I think their mechanics were huge, like their team mechanics. I honestly thought that their approach to game 3 was really cool and creative. They give the blue star to Larry, sure, but they got the pinch on the right lane. I mean, yeah, they got the kill that they were looking for. It was not a pointless act to surrender the blue star. I did like, though, how they started off game number 2, where they got Mandy, the blue star, got like the safest, least aggressive brawler. She's literally going to hit you while she cannot see you. You're off the screen. That was good team play to get that initial win. I think that Coco Loco have the team mechanics to stick together this year, make some big things happen. It's unlucky for them that they face Crazy Raccoon in the semifinal because, I mean, honestly, they could go further in this tournament.
Well, interesting stuff here, but on the other end, if you're just joining us from the B stream, Revenant just swept their way through Angelic, last month's runner-up, who took 3-2 loss to Crazy Raccoon in our grand final. So Angelic not looking nearly as hot last month. We'll have to see if that's a one-off for the year, or if Revenant maybe are the team that we expected them to be heading into it. We'll see them a little bit later on in the day, but for now, we're going to be tackling some safe zone here, Ready. A very interesting map, I think, in the rotation right now.
And also the only heist map in rotation. So this is just another interesting peculiarity of the balance changes coming in a few days before the monthly finals. So Safe Zone gonna, I think, actually have a high level of draft like skill expression here, since you don't need to scrim any other heist maps. We will see what these picks and bans end up being. Melody's a very predictable one. This brawler is just absolutely busted at getting safe damage. Look at some of these ban rates too. We see Chuck occupying spot number 1 at 79%, but he's not spotted just yet. New meta, however, Chuck is still very, very viable. He's one that you want to pick up in tandem with Cordelius. That way you can't get countered super hard by it. Maybe Crazy Raccoon are setting up for something like this. The only problem with picking a Chuck is that it is a little paradoxical. He looks like a base race brawler, but he's totally not. The counter to Chuck is actually to base race, and Crazy Raccoon seem to be covering their bases at the moment.
Well said, Reddy. Well said. I see you over here.
Yeah.
Night, still making some puns. I like it. I like it. Colette, though, a very popular selection for good reason. The hypercharge, the damage output. I'm looking out. That's exactly what I was about to say. Looking out for the Colt here. It's somebody in monthly qualifiers, excuse me, that showed up a ton, and in scrims this week as well. Things didn't change. Colt was the most played brawler in APAC for, we'll call them top 8 teams here this month in their scrims. Cordelius as well. The pairing there traditionally going to show up here as one option to counter Chuck, but also just any tanky ideas that get in the mix too. I mean, Cordelia is not the guy that you're going to send and sick on that high safe, right? It's more for defensive measures. So I think a little more control with the Cordelius, with the Bell, and then all aggression from that Carl.
You know how we talk, okay, here's the Charlie. You know how we talk about like pinches where 2v1, you know, you basically leave no room for your enemy to go, like no matter what step they take, it's gonna be wrong. This is one of those where Crazy Raccoon had the last pick. Chuck isn't banned. They picked a base race comp. Coco Loco are like, well, shoot, you know, if we don't pick the Cordelius, then we're gonna face Chuck. So we got to pick the Cordelius. The thing is that Cordelius gets no safe damage because he has no range. He is outranged by every single brawler on this enemy team. There's not a single brawler that he counters. I think this is a good outdraft by Crazy Raccoon.
Cordelius had a 91% win rate, 11 out of 12 in those monthly qualifiers, but I wonder how much of that had to do with the matchups they had, because I think looking at it on paper, like you mentioned, there's no way he's keeping up with the likes of Colette, Colt. I mean, Tensai, even with a little bit shorter range, going to have to dive in here just to get some connections, and actually going to give him a little bit of a trouble. A trade out, I think, is ideal in that situation, especially considering CR at position.
Thing is, as you just saw, Cord is able to jump over those indestructibles on the right side, which makes it not as free of a lane. He's already used 2 of those. We see Jay also connect with this safe and get some damage over here. Stetampo stuck in the Shadow Realm as well. Response is actually doing a really good job of getting the aggression. Tensai, though, already has his hypercharge. That's remarkably early in a game to be getting your hyper. Moya is making some connections to the safe. He is marked up by the Bell. We see 3 nest eggs already dropped down, but Stetampo has the super. Tensai has a way of dealing with Jay. He's actually going to use that super and then look for a kill on Jay in the back lines. Meanwhile, Coco Loco are doing devastating damage to the enemy safe. Response is defending, but that's the thing. That's all he is really going to be good for on the Cord. We saw him jump forward, but he needs to use a gadget, and he's already used half of them for the game.
He's played phenomenally, but even one misstep, like you mentioned, like missing a super, can be devastating. He's not going to be the guy that gets up in your face. Really, Jay's the only person capable of doing that, but Moya's going to put an entire clip into that, man. Satapo rushing through the safe as well, and now Tensai in prime position on the left-hand end. They're at roughly 20%. A Cocoon on the other brawler. Colt piercing through as well. Spiders everywhere. It's chaos all around. Coco Loco can't do a thing.
90% win rate. Who? they say. I saw a 90% win prediction for CR, but I think that this is one of those situations where, despite him being such a successful brawler historically, this is not one of the areas where Cordelius thrives. Cordelius is a good brawler all around, but he needs stuff that he counters in order to truly thrive. And Chuck, while unbanned, was not picked here. It was certainly present, hovering, just looming over the possible picks, but in the end, it wasn't picked, rendering response not really able to respond to anything in particular.
I talk about it all the time in Heist, but this is a composition that really relies on positioning Cordelius with a bad matchup. I just think overall, like you said, this is a lose-lose scenario, right? They can send Jay in there, but that's really their only option on the other end. They've got three pretty comparable ways to deal with that Heist safe, so 1 to 2 brawlers every time getting on that other end is a big deal for CR, who now just shredded through their opponents. They're equipped with supers. Satampo, every time he dives in, does 10%. Coco Loco just have so much work cut out for him.
Cite really needs a moment here